Okay, people, it is 2 o'clock on the West Coast of the United States. I hope wherever you are, it's beautiful. It's Friday. Happy Friday. We haven't been able to do this for a while. Been doing a lot of work, a lot of travel, busy. It's good busy. Keeps me off the street, keeps me out of trouble. Last weekend I was in San Diego, and you can see the thumbnail for this thing. It was my STFU class, which is it's always fun. And that class has really evolved. It started out as psychic development in 2020, and people have just been asking, for like, how do I develop my intuition? How do I develop? Josh was here. Picks for STFUSD will be live next week, which reminds me I have to send you some. I have some as well. Let me just move my table here. Um, So yeah, it's been a busy time. It heads up the clinic today. It's just been a lot going on in the world and in the universe. Today, I want to talk about, as chaotic as things get out there, how important it is for us to have a self-evaluative point of view. I'm going to circle around this. And for those of you that work with me, so the group I had in San Diego, I concluded the class with a worksheet on a foundational daily practice. And students that I work with, clinicians, to say that I insist would be not really my call. You all are fully functioning adults, more or less, some days. And you can do. I'm not the boss of you. I mean, there are people who I am the boss of, but I mean, I can't. We can't make anybody do anything. And I'm going to say a third of the referrals I get in all spheres at the clinic, from the veterans, from my own private practice, are well-meaning family members wanting their person to change. They need to quit smoking, they need to quit drinking, they need to quit this or start that or do something or whatever it is. And what we're going to talk about today is the idea of, where do people perceive control lies in their life. I mean, there's this theory that comes from the 60s called locus of control. I will go over that. There is an old book here in the library, it heads up, about locus of control. Locus meaning location. Where do people perceive control? And at times like this, with all the stuff that's going on, and I just really, to say that I struggle is too strong. I always wonder, because my mom would tell me in the 60s, the country's a mess, Vietnam War, the economy, OPEC. So most of you don't even know what OPEC is, the Organization of Petroleum Export Countries, which were the countries that sold us oil, and there were gas shortages in the late 70s. And now gas is just expensive. I was in California over the weekend. Cowbell says you look great and you look thin and radiant. Well, I'm going to take it because I'm tired. So if the spackle is working, and I'm doing my best, but it's been busy. I haven't had a day off for a while, and I'm not complaining. I love it. It's my life. I do it. I'm going to keep doing it. I love it. But you know how it is. Kind of like, I have a weekend off now. I have like Saturday, Sunday off, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. But thank you for the feedback. Um, so I needed to put gas in the rental car. And I had been, so I stayed at a hotel near the airport, and then I rented a car, and then I had various places to go. I had a class in one particular location. I had met with a client in another particular location. I went to dinner, so I went around all different kinds of areas in San Diego. And I noticed the gas prices varied wildly. I think the lowest I saw was in the $4 range. And then I saw it up by La Jolla and by the airport, $6 plus gas. Now in Minnesota, where I live, sometimes it's like in the threes, sometimes in the twos. Now we get to 289, 299 for regular unleaded. Here in Las Vegas, it's in the threes, probably a low of 329 up to 379. In California, it was from four something to six something a gallon. In Hawaii, it was 4 or 5, and I hear in Alaska it's also really expensive. Um, what was my point? My point is that I noticed that this is not a slam on California. I love California. I lived there for 15 years. I would like to live there again. And I just noticed some things. I do talk to my friends and family who live in California, who pay lots of taxes, property taxes, sales tax. Everything is more expensive, food and gas and utilities and everything. And I know why. I was right by the beach. If you follow me on social media, you saw some of the photos I took of the harbor and the marina and Point Loma. It's just frickin' beautiful. And the weather is just frickin' beautiful. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of cars, and my joke is, and no offense to you Californians, because people say that the same thing about every culture. California would be so great if it weren't for the Californians, just like Las Vegas would be great if it weren't for the Las Vegans. We always would say Paris would be great if it weren't for the Parisians, and so on. I joke. But what I noticed was there was a wide gap between gas prices. And so I wanted, and you know how the drill is. You're returning a rental car, you have to return it full, or you're going to get charged. And so there is a gas station that I know of that's right by the airport. So I pulled into that. It was a mobile station, and I don't know about you. So part of this for me is a sanity check, and hopefully this for you is a sanity check that lest you think you're going crazy. Now, in the last 10 days, now we are in day 24 of a government shutdown. I have been noticing that technological things have not been working in weird ways. Like I booked an airline ticket, the credit card was charged, but the ticket was never issued. So I have to deal with that. My credit cards, and I always these days have a slew of them because you never know when there's going to be a problem. And it's not about you don't have the money. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. So I pull out my debit card and I go to the self-pay thing. And I've got the phone. I can do the Apple Pay. Oops, sorry. I can do the Apple Pay thing. I'm getting good at that. I've got the cards. I have cash. I could have paid cash, but we don't use cash that much anymore. And so I go to use my phone, and there's no phone thing. Apple Pay, no, can't do that. So then I put my debit card in, and it says whatever it says. And I noticed that this is California, it's San Diego, near downtown San Diego, very, very high priced gas, like 6.29 a gallon for regular. And the pumps are dirty. The station is dirty. The pumps are broken down. Half the pumps don't work. They have paper taped, out of order. Another one, the one that I first pulled up to, had a paper thing with Sharpie that said "pay inside," or use another pump. And then I went to a pump that didn't have a sign on it, and I put my card in, and the drill. Do you want a car wash? That whole thing, and then nothing. So then it was just me, and I went in, and there was a lovely lady there, and I said, "What's going on?" She goes, "Oh, your card didn't work." And I said, "Oh, that's odd." She goes, "No, it's not your card. The systems have just been really temperamental the last couple of weeks, and the cards aren't working. They are working, and so then it was the funny thing where she said, "How much do you want to put in?" Now I have to fill it up. It's not my car. It's a little Buick Encore. It's cute, little crossover, small SUV. And I said, "I have no idea, and I don't pay $6 a gallon for gas ever. So if I have to estimate what a full tank would be, I've used about a half a tank." And she goes, "Don't worry about it. Let's just do $60, and whatever is left over, that will go back to your card." And I said, "Well, but my card was declined." She goes, "No, no, sir, your card was not declined. Your card didn't work because no cards work right now for some reason." And she was very kind. Don't get me wrong. She was lovely. She was kind of apologetic about, yeah, this is really a mess. Now, my point to the story is things have been funky lately. And I don't know whether it's a full moon. Again, I always wonder what I can blame it on. Is it the full moon? Is it the Mercury in retrograde? Is it the Schumann resonance? Is it my burrito ingestion? Is it my alcohol intake? And so today really is about you having a benchmark for when you're doing well, and stop beating yourself up for when you perceive you're not doing well. And I know this is a circuitous route today, but I ended up paying $6+ for gas. Here it's three something to get gas. In Minnesota, it's two something. I don't know where you are, but it's kind of all over the map. Um, I work with a lot of government employees. I worked with a lady this week who is not being paid. She has not been paid for 2 weeks. She is an essential worker, and she continues to go to work every day uh, and do her essential job, and is doing it for free. And she hopes, because these shutdowns have happened before, and she is employed by the federal government, that she will get a retroactive pay. Um, and so, and I don't say this as any sort of an indictment. I just think there's just a lot of stuff going on now. Now, I'm also noticing in my travels here with my patients, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of people who are really circling the drain. We've had more emergency admissions here. We've had more calls to the answering service. We've had more issues just in general with people having a hard time. So if you're having a hard time, you're in good company. So let's talk about locus of control. So there is this idea that it's on a continuum, on a spectrum, if you will. And on the one side, the two poles of and if I had a whiteboard, I would show you, there's internal and external. So people with an internal locus of control perceive that they are in charge of their own lives, that whatever happens to them, is their fault or their cause or their purpose or whatever it is. And they do it their best that they can to take as much ownership for what happens to them. And they use language like I, me, mine. They think they see responsibility as accountability, as doing the right thing for themselves. They're going to take as much ownership. They might tend to take too much ownership when it's not theirs to take. These people might be called controlling. I had a lady once, I landed in a town, Rapid City, South Dakota, to do a training, and she apologized for the rain. She said, "I'm so sorry it's raining." And I said, "Oh, it's okay. Like, it's not your fault, you know." She goes, "Well, I wanted you to have a good time." Now, interesting presupposition there. It's her fault it's raining. She wanted me to have a good time. I can't have a good time if it's raining, and that somehow she's responsible. And it was cute. And I didn't belabor it, but I just noticed the language, that she was very internal, very internally focused. Now, the opposite side, as you might imagine, is external. Um, It is not my fault. It is everyone else's fault. Now, they use language like they, he, she, it, you. They often will point the finger. They often will, you know, attribute causation outside of themselves. And there's two factors to this. There are strong, powerful others, meaning people, situations, and then there's luck and chance and karma. And they will attribute that and these are my joke about blaming. It's about, well, I can't, it's a full moon. I can't possibly, do this, or whatever the Mercury in retrograde show is, or whatever got off to the wrong start, or woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And now what the statistic currently, and I don't know, and I'd be interested in your questions. Most people in America, and the only data I have is from the United States, about 80% of the time people are coming from an external point of view. And the time when people are the grumpiest is when they feel out of control, and it's someone, something outside of them that is making them. So I'm choosing my language carefully. So when I reflect on what my mom would do about the current state of affairs, she may say, "This is America. It's always been this way. We've always had economic challenges. We've always had shortages. We've always had political unrest." And she might say, given the 1960s, this is mild. And I know this may ignite a shitstorm. My intention here is not to deny or ignore what's going on and how difficult it is. But if you've been on the planet for any time at all, we've seen the cycles and rhythms of political unrest. The questions come up to me. Is there more child abuse now? Is there more sexual assault now? Is there more domestic violence now? Is there more gang activity? Is there more drug use, more homelessness, more of anything, any negative thing? And I don't know that there is. I do know that there's always been homelessness, and I do know there's always been child abuse. We just didn't call it that. I believe that my mom, and I'm speaking to my peers out there, if you're in your 60s or higher, I believe my mom would have gone to jail with how she disciplined me. And again, by comparison to you, pretty mild. I got my mouth washed out with ivory soap once because I said the word darn, D-A-R-N. I brought it home from third grade and I used it in a sentence. And apparently I conjugated it very well. And she said, "What did you say?" I said, "Oh, darn it, mom. I have too much homework," or something like that. She didn't say a word, came over, grabbed me by the ear, brought me down to the bathroom by the ear. Ivory soap. It's the white soap, right? I think the bars are only like this big. This bar seemed like it was the size of a brick because it went in my mouth. It went in my mouth. And she said, "We don't use that language in this house." That was darn, by the way. It wasn't any racier than darn. So I'm a fast learner. I learned that we don't swear around our mother. And then I got my face slapped once because I talked back to her. I was a quick learner. I learned that you don't talk back to your mother, to my mother at least. And that was pretty much it. Now, today, kids are calling 911 on their parents for taking away their phone. I mean, this is real. Kids are literally calling 911 with somebody else's phone and saying my parents abusing me and neglecting me because they took away my phone. Parents come to us here at the clinic and ask, what do I do with my incorrigible child that is just a dick, who just went, and we strategize ways, non-violent ways to, up to and including taking away the video games, taking away the phone, taking away the iPad, taking the door off of the room. Um, and there was a sad situation. Well, I don't want to go down that path. There was an overdose, a suicide recently here at the clinic, and this was this was completely preventable. This was a teenager who took an overdose, and had that teenager been found, uh, they could have been resuscitated, but nobody checked on this teenager for 12, 14, 16 hours. And the child had taken an overdose of their antidepressants. Very sad, sad case. Many of those suicides are preventable. That's what we do here at the clinic. So I'd like you now. So we've got the internal locus of control, which is I'm 100% responsible. We have the external, which means I own none of it. Now remember, it's on a spectrum, it's on a continuum. We are not all 100% external. We are not all 100% internal. If you are too, I will tell you, if you are too internal, meaning you want to control and dictate everything, or you think everything is your fault and everything, the sun and the stars, that's a problem, because that is the person who's overly controlling, overly dictatorial, overly aggressive, and also will self-deprecate and blame themselves for things that they could have nothing to do with. So there's pathology at either ends of the spectrum. What we look for, if there's internal and external, in the middle is 50%. Let's just say we look for about 75%. Is as the optimal place on the locus of control to be healthy, making the distinction, like the serenity prayer, to change the things I can and let go of the rest, or to understand what is it that I can directly control, what is it that I can influence, and then what is beyond me. And I find that a great amount of human suffering is placed on those things that are beyond me. Now, this is easier said than done. Yeah, easier said than done. There are things about what's going on in the world truly that you cannot control, that you can't even influence, that are sad, that are saddening, if that's a word. They are provocative. They make us feel bad. I don't like war. I don't like people being killed. I don't like a lot of the things that are going on. And I have to make a reconciliation with myself every day about, okay, what about this can I directly control? And the good news and the bad news. The good news is that you can only really control yourself. And if you've ever tried to influence another living system, like a dog or a cat or a 2-year old or a 20-year old, you know what I'm talking about. We cannot, control another living system of any kind. And we have the joke about herding cats, that working with some people is like herding cats. And it kind of is. And so if in fact the only person's behavior you can directly control is your own, then what does that look like? William Glasser, a noted psychiatrist and theorist in the 90s, wrote a book called Choice Theory. And And Control Theory, he wrote in 1977. He followed it up with Choice Theory in 1996. And he talks about behavior as being part of four components. And you can listen to the recording or take notes, but I want you to listen carefully as to this idea of the components of behavior. So if you buy the argument that the more responsibility to a point you take for yourself, the happier you'll be. Not too much, because then you'll beat yourself up for everything, but not so little that you're blaming the sun, moon, and the stars for everything. Take as much ownership as you can. The only thing you can control is your own behavior. He coined a term called total behavior. It has four elements to it. Number one, behavior consists of doing. Pretty obvious. The things you do. You can control directly the things you do. Now, this became very difficult for me when I was coming up around my weight, because theoretically, and it would piss me off, by the way, somebody said, well, you can control what you put in your mouth. Just like telling an addict, you can control how many drinks you have. You can control the crack. You can control the opiates. Come on, what's the big deal? I think I told you a story of a young, fit marathon runner, female, hiking with me in the Beartooth Mountains years ago. And she came up to me and she says, you're a psychologist, you're a doctor. What's this weight loss thing? Why can't people lose weight? She says, I don't get it. Now, size 0, no body fat, marathon runner, athlete, this big. And I, at the time, was obese, but I wasn't, I was probably just heavy. I don't know, big guy, 250, 260, 275, something like that. She says, I just don't understand. Just eat less, exercise more. What's the big deal? She was trying to be understanding, but she was not understanding the complexity of addiction, right? Pick your poison, cigarettes and weed and alcohol and cheesecake and all the good things. And I struggled with that, because the reality is, if number one in total behavior is doing, and eating what I put in my mouth is in my control, then what is the problem? Well, I know how to do it. People that don't want to smoke know they should just stop smoking. People that have addictions know they should not drink as much, on and on and on. We have the information. And so in terms of our behavior, if it was just about doing, then why? But we know that it's not that simple. And so even with the most devoted and internally focused people with clear set goals, man, some of these patterns of human behavior are really quite difficult to overcome. So that's number one, doing. Number two, thinking. He said that, he goes, this Glasser now, he said that you can control your thinking. Now, already at this level, I get pushback. I get people saying, no, I can't control my thinking. Thoughts come in, my thoughts race, I ruminate, I chew on things. It's a constant cacophony of stuff up there. I have no ability to control my thinking. And Glasser would disagree. He'd say that there are tools and skills that you can, meditation and things that we talk about, that you actually can manage, at least manage your thinking. Now, the flip side is, people ask me as a meditation teacher, I want to shut off my brain. I want to shut down my thinking. Can I just turn it off? I'm so sick of this. I'm so sick of this monkey mind, the constant judging and the constant thinking and the constant ruminating and analyzing and all that stuff. Hence my class STFU, by the way. Not a pitch, but just that's why the class was existed, to manage this. I don't believe, and having taught meditation for many years, I don't believe that we can fully shut it down. I believe that we can create space. I believe that we can learn the discipline of managing our thinking. And so please don't have the expectation of yourself that you're going to be able to just shut it down, shut it off. But I would hope that you can turn the volume down, you can increase the space between the thoughts, and get some respite and peace there. Of course, we do all sorts of hypnosis and different kinds of energy work techniques to help with that. So that's number two. Number two is, I'm distracted by the chat. Amazing use of cacophony. You said it with great ebulliency. This is Joshua. Thank you. I'm trying to come up with a big word. I can't. Thank you. Where was I going? Doing, thinking, you can manage the thinking. and try to think better things. So the essence of cognitive behavioral therapy, one of our core interventions in therapy, is to cognitively, meaning changing your thinking about things, maladaptive thinking, negative thinking, beating yourself up, and then behavioral, doing new behaviors to try to implement and change those patterns. So now in the total behavior model, we have a line. So we got doing, thinking, then we have a line. The line indicates by which you don't have direct control. So Glasser would say you have direct control over doing and thinking. Then he draws a line, and the 3 and 4, I'll give them to you at the same time. Number 3 is feeling, and number 4 is physiology. So number 3 are the emotions. He says that you can influence your emotional state. You can do things to change your emotional state, but that you can't directly control it. And this is absolutely true. If you've ever just woke up with a panic attack with no clear stressor, you've had all of a sudden you're having an emotion, something's coming up, you're triggered by something. He would agree, and I would agree, you can't directly necessarily control that. In fact, I think what we do as humans is spend a lifespan trying to control it, trying to like, why am I so upset? Why did I get so pissed off about that? What is this? What was it about this that was so upsetting to me? And so he says that feelings, emotions are not directly controllable by you, but you can influence them, with techniques and tips and counting and breathing and meditation and all the things that we do. Now, the fourth category of what he calls total behavior is called physiology. Now, this is even deeper rooted in the unconscious mind. Most often, your indication that you are frustrated is a physical sensation. I'll say that again. Most often, your indication that you are frustrated is a physiology. It's a tightening, it's a warmth, it's not an emotional feeling, it's a physical feeling. The feeling of anxiety is physical. So people that don't have anxiety don't understand this. Well, can't you just calm down? Why are you so upset? Well, can't you just, distract yourself? And my favorite examples are those people who come into the office and they say, I was sound asleep last night, sleeping pretty well. And I woke up, sat straight up in bed and had a panic attack. Because my question around panic attacks is, what was the trigger? What happened? Did you see something? Did you feel something? And they come in really frustrated with I was asleep, no trigger, nothing. And I woke up in a panic attack. And we're going to talk before the end of this session about why that happens and where's this stuff stored that it would happen and the layers kind of in there. So don't feel bad. Your physiology. I had a lady in class this last weekend. For her, all of a sudden, her heart rate, her indication that she was not feeling great was she was wearing an Apple Watch. And I'm just teaching class, and all of a sudden she said, she calls me Kumu. That's my title, my Hawaiian title, Kumu. My heart rate's gone up to 160. I'm really, I don't know what's going on. And she said it fairly flatly, but how that works with panic. The thing happens, then you get scared, then the thing happens more, then you get more scared. And it's like, a vicious cycle up to and including you pass out with panic attacks, that kind of stuff. Now, she wasn't having a panic attack. She was having something else. And we handled it in class. But her first indication, she wasn't thinking anything. I would like to think she was focused on the class. I didn't ask her, but I mean, she's a great student, just sitting there, day 2 of a 2-day class on psychic development. All of a sudden, she starts to light up. And so I use light up, activate, like that when you start having physiology. Now, part of the self-awareness piece. So again, 4 pieces of total behavior: doing, thinking, feeling, and physiology. The top 2 you can directly control, doing and thinking. Bottom 2 you can't. And so let's talk a little bit about, and I like how he breaks them down. And this is, remember, the guise of locus of control. Where do you perceive control in your life lies? I will tell you, you will be more satisfied the less you blame. Although blaming is fun. It's so fun, it just doesn't help us. Because if the power truly is over there, we've just given it away. I'm going to say that again. If it truly is all their fault, and you take no ownership, no, it's not you, that works to help you feel better for a while. But understand, if you put the power over there, you have no ability to change it, right? And so sometimes, so the language would be, he's making me mad or she's hurting my feelings. They are frustrating me. They do it to me every time. So listen to the language. They do it to me every time. Now, these days is the government, the president, the insurance company, the spouse, the dog. The dog ate my homework. I can't because the sun was in my eyes. It's the sun's fault, and so on. And even though intellectually you understand that it's not the sun's fault, the sun's doing what it does, it's not the dog's fault. Well, it could be the dog's fault. Saw a cute video today at the animal shelter. This is so cute. I just laughed. I love animal videos. I don't remember the dog's name. Was taken into the shelter. Was, what did they happen? Surrendered, abandoned, donated, given to the shelter. Full-grown husky, Siberian husky, adorable. And this dog single-handedly caused $2,000 in damage in the animal shelter. He got out of his kennel. He got out of the door. He opened the door on his own into the office area, the reception area, and trashed the front desk area. And that he's on video doing it, and it's just him. He let out two colleagues, other dogs, and the other two dogs were a little scared, and so they came out and kind of looked at it. When they saw what he was doing, they went back to the kennels. And so this husky is like pushing the computer monitors onto the floor, turning over the waste, but not even that hysterically, just kind of having fun, pulling the toilet paper roll and getting the Kleenex and chewing on the Kleenex box. And you could see him take his paw and move the expensive computer monitor onto the floor. And now this is the funny part of the story. And it was all on camera. Everything was on camera. So that when the staff came back on Monday morning, and they showed pictures, this place was trashed. Every room that he had access to was just trashed. I mean, just stuff all over the floor. And the dog, I think his name was Titan, proud, standing there like, look what I did, very proud. And so really cute. This shelter put out a notice for adoption. I think it was kind of a funny thing. And the dog, because it went on the news, this video, he was adopted the next day because the family that adopted him had another husky. And they thought, wow, this guy is really smart, really knows what he's doing, really capable. We have one already. Let's just take another one. So because he was so rambunctious and stuff, they wanted that in their family. Now, the other good news, they did a GoFundMe to raise money to pay for the damages that this beautiful being of light caused. And they wanted to raise $2,000 to pay for a new monitor and just a few things that he broke. And they ended up raising $3,700. The community support was, amazing. And, I love that. Now, can we directly control a Siberian husky? I think not. Can you directly control your 2-year-old? I was on a conference call this morning, or no, this was yesterday. It was an interview. And I have to say, I used to be pretty stuffy about formality, and I was interviewing a graduate student to maybe do her internship here, and her 2-year-old was there. And the 2-year-old wanted to be part of the deal, sitting on the lap, and it was telehealth, or Zoom, kind of like this. And I thought it was adorable. And there were times that you wouldn't bring your 2-year-old to a job interview. That's kind of that, but I thought it was great. It was fine. And she was great. She handled herself. She said, I really apologize, but my husband isn't here, and this is our kid. And I get it. I totally get it. And so we're a lot more flexible now than we used to be. So take a look now with me, and self-evaluate. Now, listen carefully. When I say self-evaluate, I don't mean self-deprecate. I don't mean self-beating up. And this is hard. Not hard. I don't know. I think we're just so used to beating ourselves up and criticizing ourselves and putting ourselves down that when I say, okay, what's going well? And I do it here. And, every Friday I've just done 2 hours of supervision with the group, 2 groups, the student group and the clinical group. And I always say, okay, what's going well? What are you proud of? What are you proud of? Not what a train wreck you are. And I make them because I'm powerful. That's funny. I'm so internally locus of control that I make them. And It's funny. They give me a hard time. Uh, but I'll say, okay, what's going well? This week, as you look back on your clinical caseload, as you look back on your learning, as you look, because this is a teaching facility, what are you most proud of? So I'll say the same thing to you as you begin to look at what's going on in your life. The natural tendency is to go down the path of what's missing, what's wrong, what's next, what goal haven't I achieved. And I actually have worked with some people, mostly billionaires, who have come to me. I've had 3 or 4 of them in the last 20 years who have achieved all their goals, and they're bored, and they're like, "I don't know what to do," And so, and I remember the old Japanese Buddhist ladies would say, "Be thankful for obstacles, be thankful that you have stuff to work on." And I never understood that. Like, what? What are you talking about? Be thankful for the obstacles. That's kind of true. As much as it sucks on some days, think about it. If everything was perfect, you had all the money you needed, you had everything you wanted. You had nothing to work on. There was no goals, and that's what I run into. Had a lady call the answering service a couple weeks ago, and she's an older lady, and I think I alluded to her in a previous video that she has been on medication and therapy for many years, and she's getting frustrated because she doesn't believe it's working. And the reality is, she's in her 50s. She has a chronic health condition. She has alienated anyone that would ever talk to her. She's not a very pleasant person, and she just was so frustrated. She just said, I just don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what my life is for. I don't know what my purpose is. She's on disability, doesn't have a lot of money, but she gets by. And I think more than anything else, she's bored, like that. So, at any rate, so this is what I'd like you to do: self evaluation questions. And you can write these down or listen to the recording. Number one, what's going well? What's going well? What are you most proud of? I know that's another question, but that's part of the first question. What are you most proud of this week? I got to the gym twice. Proud of that. I've been sticking to my diet. I'm proud of that. I went to the doctor. My scans are clear. I have no more cancer. My bone scan was clear. No osteoporosis. My sugars, my A1C is down to 4, 3 something 4. For those of you that is low, it's good. And on and on and on. So I could list a dozen things in the last week. I think we did a really great class this last weekend. I worked with a client. I think that went really well. Um, there you go. So, number one, what's going well? Number two, what's been most challenging this past week? What's been most challenging this past week? And I will report fatigue. I'm tired. I know I look great, but I haven't had a day off for a while, and I've been commiserating with other teachers and other therapists. We are extraordinarily busy. I had an intern come in this week for supervision and go, "I'm fried. I am," her words, "crispy, and I need to renegotiate. I need to figure this out because this is not sustainable." Now, burnout is insidious. We're fine, we're fine, we're fine, we're fine, we're fine, and then all of a sudden one day we're not fine. All of a sudden it's like, holy crap, I'm tired. And in our case, if you're a caregiver, or if you work with other people, or you are supporting others or teaching, or you suck it up and you do your best, and then all of a sudden one day, man, and we call it compassion fatigue. It's like you can't care. And remember that the biggest sign of burnout really isn't exhaustion, it's apathy. Biggest sign of burnout is you just don't care. You just can't care anymore about these people or that thing or this family member or that dog or the money or the bills or whatever it is. So look for that. So take a look. Question number two: what has been most challenging? Uh, if I think, yeah, I'm going to say fatigue. Had some joint pain. I'm feeling like I'm falling behind with paperwork and things. I don't like that. I try to be accountable, so I'm behind. So if any of you are waiting for me on some things, you're so sorry. I'm falling behind. But what was most challenging? Now you can also take that into what was most emotionally challenging. And here we talk about cases. We talk about suicides. I mean, people that successfully suicide. We talk about managing ourselves. So what has been most challenging in the past week? Number three, what's next? So, meaning Are there new goals that you want to set, right? What's next? For me, what's next is having a weekend off, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited about washing my car. I'm excited about getting a massage. I'm excited about going shopping. I'm getting excited about having my car fixed. I like things in working order. My car's got some things I got to look at, and things I got to take to the shop. And so I'm excited about finishing this live, and I have one more patient call today, and then I'm done until Monday morning, and I'm excited about that. I don't have any structure. One of my rules on the weekends is no structure. I will do a lot of things, but my commitment to myself is because my life is so scheduled, every minute of every day is booked, on a calendar that many people have access to. When I'm off, I don't want appointments. Like, I don't make an appointment for the massage. The place I go here in Chinatown, you just show up, you walk in. It's not fancy, very low cost. Lovely. I've been going there for 20 years. They do such a great job. Foot spa on Spring Mountain and Valley View, if you want to know. Reflexology, beautiful. And again, they know me. They never say my name. It's very discreet. It is not one of those places, just so you know. There is no extra services. But I've been going there for 20 years, and it's awesome. But I know, even like, if I had I don't know if you've ever done this, if you've ever just overbooked yourself, where you're going to go to the shower, and then you're going to go shopping, and then you're going to go off to cocktails here, then you're going to a wine bar there, and then you're going to go to dinner with these people. Then pretty soon you're overwhelmed with your social calendar. So when I say what's next, it can be what's next in terms of a goal, a relaxation goal, a meeting your needs goal. It could be what's next. So that's number three. And then the number three about what next is really, what could you do? What are some things you could do up against personal, professional, whatever it is you're looking at? And then finally, number four, what is your plan? And I ask these four questions of all my students. What's your plan? What will you do? At the end of every therapy session, for me, to them, the signal that the therapy session is coming to an end is the computer comes back on my lap to look at the schedule to see when their next appointment is, to make it if they want, and to say, what's your plan for the coming week? What goals do you have? What determinations do you have? I have one client, she's so funny. She's made so much progress. Very high performer, very achiever, and has really struggled with meditation historically. I just can't do it. I just can't. I can't shut up. I can't stop my mind. She was one of the ones I've alluded to. Well, can I do it on the treadmill? Can I do it while driving? Can I, because I send these recordings of, hypnosis and things like that. And years ago, she was like, I just can't. I just can't. So then the subsequent, time, I've really said, I really think it would be really helpful for you to manage stress and anxiety by meditating. And she calls it the M word because it's the thing that dare not speak its name. And recently, in recent weeks, she says, I'm meditating. What's your plan? Well, I'm going to continue my meditations. Like, well, good for you. And so whatever that is for you, if that's the gym, for me, it's the gym. I am committed to going to the gym 4 days a week. Successfully, I've been making it once, if at all, twice. And so my goal is to get to the gym this weekend, go swimming, move every day, like that. And then, go for that. Let's see here. Oh, there's a new note. I have been struggling with quadratic logarithmic strings in Python. Wow. Okay, that's Joshua. He's in school, by the way. I'm going to brag on him a little bit. He's in school for coding. And so he is super nerdy and super smart. And apparently, and I joke because occasionally when we talk, he'll use jargon that I don't understand. And he'll say something like, yeah, I'm really kind of debating whether I should use quadratic logarithmic strings in Python or do the other sun, moon, and the stars thing that I don't understand. And I will just joke and go, I think the logarithmic quadratic strings in Python, that's good. I would do that. That's what I always do. I think you guys do it too. And I joke with him. He goes, you don't have any idea what you're talking about. I said, well, you brought it up. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you want to use quadratic logarithmic strings, I think you should. But I digress. So as a result of today, it's a lot. And I know it's a lot of lists and things, and you can watch the recording. Those of you that are watching the recording, take notes. I'm going to bring it all together and we'll conclude today. I think it's helpful to notice how much we attribute our state to others. I notice that. Now, I don't mean even other people. How triggered are you when you get an email that's troubling, or you get a letter in the mail that's troubling? You know, the IRS wants to talk to you. And it's hard again these days, boy. And as a community service, most places aren't going to call you. So please, if you get a call from the sheriff's department or the police saying that there's a warrant for your arrest, and I know this may seem simple, but I still have clients come in who've been scammed, who have been taken, who literally, I had a brilliant psych nurse a few years ago who got the call from the sheriff's department, had to go to Walmart, buy gift cards, send the gift cards or do something with the gift cards to the tune of thousands of dollars, and then realized, well, this is completely a scam. It's completely a scam. So I have another friend who likes to play with the scammers, and answer them and send them pictures that are of somebody else. I don't have the time for that. My point is, be careful. Banks don't call you. There's been a thing lately where banks have called me about my accounts, and I see the caller ID for Wells Fargo or Chase or American Express or whatever it is, and I call, well, this is their number, you know, and then they call and it's about it's a sales call, or, it's a whatever it is. And I handle it, but be careful, be careful with whom you interact with. Um, but figure out, notice your triggers, even little ones like traffic and your kids, what really gets you going. Now, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be more resilient the more rest you have and the more you meditate. But given that, start paying attention to what really gets you going. And what I mean by that is what triggers you: your anger, your anxiety, your sadness, your fear, your hurt, your guilt. And then just note that and just notice that, wow, I'm really letting that thing outside of myself really upset me. And then number two, look at your behavior. Where do you feel it first? Do you notice that your shoulders hunch, or do you notice that you're feeling it in the back of your neck? Do you notice in your stomach, or your tummy, your stomach? Where do you feel the anxiety or the negativity first? And just notice that. Just notice that. Well, yeah, whenever I get upset, my face gets red, and I, feel chest pressure or tightness, that kind of thing, because that's your body lighting up about a stressful situation, not inappropriately, but that's feedback for you. And then try to figure out, okay, so I'm having this physiology. What's the emotion to it? Is it anxiety? Is it fear? What is it? When I get bad news, I get warm. I notice a flush, like I'm in trouble. Like I got caught. I had something come in, a certified mail today about one of our interns, and it hit me, and it was a complaint, and it hit me and I just watched it. I noticed that I've got war. I was reading the letter. It was a certified letter. Read it, and I went right there very briefly. So the good news is, as you do this work, you can minimize the impact of some of this stuff and pass through it quicker. And so I noticed that it took me about an hour. Now I've got a plan in my head. We're going to talk about it next week, and we're going to have an action plan and deal with it. You can't do this work and not get complaints. That's just the way it works. And I'm the clinical director, and I handle the complaints, and I'm his boss. There you go. Now, that doesn't make it any easier, but I was triggered. It took me, and I'm just being transparent with you. It took me like an hour to kind of ride the wave and put it into perspective. So just start to notice how long you hang on to things. I'll leave you with this story. I had a teacher, some of you have heard the story. I studied Tai Chi in California years ago. No, it wasn't. He wasn't the Tai Chi. He was the Tai Chi teacher, but this was in an Aikido class, martial arts. And it was all young men. There was about 12 of us. And one of the other students, this guy was, if you know the Karate Kid series long ago, Mr. Miyagi, he was Japanese with the Fu Manchu thing, gray hair, tiny guy. And he took great pleasure in taking us all down. Now, I was this size when I was 12, and I was, 6'3" and 200 pounds. And And this little guy, weighed about 80 pounds, wringing wet, would just giggle as he was taking me to the floor repeatedly and use me as a demonstration. And it felt like he was using his little finger to take me down too. It's like before I knew it, I was on the floor, kind of thing. And so one day, one of the other students, a young man, says, "Sensei, do you ever get off center?" He paused. I wish I'd asked the question. "Sensei, do you ever get off center?" He paused and he said, he said, "It's a good question." He said, "All of us get off center from time to time. You can't live on this planet. You can't be in these bodies and not be impacted by what's around you." He said, "The only difference between me and you is I don't hang out there very long. Not like you idiots." I think that was his exact words. "I don't hang out there very long like you idiots." And I thought that was cute because it's true. If you've ever wallowed in your own self-pity and just, it's going on, whatever it is. And I'm not trying to minimize the trauma or the breakup or the issue, but I'm a good wallower, man. I can wallow. And then I noticed myself, well, I'm really wallowing in self-pity here. I'm really playing the martyr, right? Like, poor me, that kind of thing. And so I would say lighten up, do your best to lighten up and not take yourself so seriously, give yourself some grace and set some goals for next steps on your path. And so with that, I think that's enough for today. Wish you the best. Have a great weekend, and I will see you again next week for a YouTube live.